Hi, I'm Taylor, 25 years old, don't know how to ride a bike. How are you? Hey guys, it's Taylor. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Happy Monday! So today I'm going to bring you something a little different. I have come up with an idea that I want to do a top 10 favorite blank. Today it's going to be top 10 favorite standalones. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this every other week. It's probably going to be every other week or once a month because I have Top 5 Wednesday 2 to 3 times a week. I don't want to have too many like countdown type videos, but I have been super excited for this idea that I just thought I'd go ahead and dive on in. So like I said, this is going to be the top 10 favorite standalones. Now, a lot of these are actually going to be contemporary because I'm a huge fantasy reader, and more fantasy books end up being in the like duology, trilogy, quartet, or series. So there are a couple of fantasy standalones that I do have to mention. I will also go ahead and say that I'm not sure how to count books that have like companion novels. I do have one in here that is a companion novel, that has a companion novel. To me, it's a standalone. It follows a completely different set of characters. So this is in no particular order. I have 9 physical books and one that I am just going to mention. I did read it. I'm still looking for the perfect edition of this book. Without further ado, top 10 favorite standalones. So first and foremost, I'm going to mention my favorite book of the year so far, and that is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This does have a companion novel. It's called A Closed and Common Orbit. I don't want to give anything away because I do think that this is a book that you need to go into blind. It is a sci-fi. There is diverse characters. There are some elements of time travel. There is space travel. It's amazing. I love this book so much, and I love this book so much. I highly suggest everybody read it, even if sci-fi is not your thing. So book number 2 is actually going to be Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. This is one of 2 Laurie Halse Anderson books. I should have a like Laurie Halse Anderson book talk because I love her books so much. This does have trigger warnings for abuse, assault, depression, just a lot of issues. This follows a character by the name of Melinda. She is an outcast now because she busted an end of the summer party that she thought was getting out of hand, but there's something a little deeper that has been going on. And so because of that, Melinda ends up spending most of her time alone because of that outcast feeling that she has, and because she doesn't really have anybody to talk to. Her parents don't really quite understand it, but Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson is definitely one of those standalone books that it's pretty short. You can pick it up and read through it in a day. I highly suggest it. Next is going to be Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. This is my favorite Sarah Dessen book of all time. This follows a young girl by the name of Auden. Her parents have recently divorced, and she ends up spending most of her nights awake. And in order to break out of this sleepless rut that she feels that she is in, she goes to spend the summer at a beach with her father and his new family. I believe his wife is pregnant, and she ends up working at a shop with her stepmother, and she ends up kind of in an odd way befriending the girls that work there. And it's just her trying to find a life with her father and where she fits in. And Eli comes into her life. He is also an insomniac, and they end up spending nights together. And one of the things that I really connected with Auden was that she didn't know how to ride a bike. I still don't know how to ride a bike. By the end of the book, she knows how to ride, but I'm 25 years old and I do not know how to ride a bike. And the 4th book is A Fire and Stars by Audrey Colhurst. I love this book. I just read it, I think it was August. It was July or August when I read this book, and I loved it. I buddy read it with Amanda at A Court of Books and Love, and she enjoyed it as well. She gave it a 4 out of 5, but if given the chance, I'd give this a 10 out of 5. That's how much I loved it. It follows a princess by the name of Denna, and she is coming to live with her betrothed and his family. They're a family that raise war horses, and Denna's never really been on a horse. She doesn't know how to ride. But her future sister-in-law, Mare, knows how to ride. She is pretty much the self-proclaimed caretaker of the horses in the stable because that's where she spends most of her time. So they begrudgingly end up having to spend time together while Mare is giving Denna horse riding lessons. And the two just butt heads constantly, but it ends up being such a beautiful love story between the two. So it is basically a princess going to marry the prince, but she falls in love with his sister. And it is so good. I loved this so much. It's another one of my top 3 favorite books that I have read this year. Next is Freaks by Amanda Hocking. This is the first book that I had read by Amanda Hocking, and I loved it. I was going through a time where I was really into like these carnival books, like freak shows and stuff like that have always interested me, and this is not really centered around being a freak show as it is a traveling band of misfits who come into a town where there's a whole big mystery and a whole history to it, and they have come into this town for a reason. There's werewolves, there's psychics, there's murder, there's demons. It's all kinds of fun stuff in this. Such an easy read. It flows so beautifully, and it's really, really, really worth picking it up and reading it. So next is going to be Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I don't own this book. So Stardust is the story of a young man by the name of Tristan who has gone to search for a fallen star, and the reason he is going to look for this is so that he can win the heart of a beautiful maiden in his town by the name of Victoria. And he ends up going and finding the star, and it turns out she is in a human form. Now, there is a whole bunch of other beautiful story to this. If you haven't read anything by Neil Gaiman, he is a fantastic author. Next is going to be Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. This follows a girl by the name of Madeline, or Maddie, and she is sick to the point to where if she goes outside, she's gonna die. The only person that she really has in contact with is her mother and her nurse Carla. But it turns out that there is a adorable boy who just moved in next door. His name is Ollie, and they struck up a friendship and eventually a romance, and it just follows their love and her hating the fact that she can't go outside. And the cover is just absolutely beautiful. And it's really cool when the cover matches the story inside and the amount of beauty that goes with the two. Next is going to be one of my top favorite books of all time, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. The love that I have for this book runs to the point to where when it first came out, I think I read it for the first time in 2013. I was in college, I was a writer, trying to balance a relationship, I was trying to balance writing, trying to balance college, my family life, and it got rough. It got really rough for a while. And this book hit me in a way that it is possible to have a personal life, to be a writer, to go to school. It is possible, it's just you have to make sacrifices for certain things. I owe this book so much, and it is definitely one of my top favorite standalones. When I made this list, it was the first one I wrote down. Next is going to be Catalyst by Lori Halls Anderson. This is one of the first books that I actually remember reading. I think I was in 6th grade when I read this book for the first time. I remember that I would hate to go outside because I'd have to put my book down and I'd have to go socialize. And this follows Kate Malone. She's just a very logic-driven person. She believes that she can fit everything into an organized table. She ends up coming into some issues with her family and with her friends, and she's just still waiting to hear from the only college that she applied to, and that's MIT, because that's the only college she wants to go to. And one of the things that this book really does is it's really good at changing the way you look at the world. I know that I did as a 5th or 6th grader when I picked this book up for the first time. It's when I realized that you do need organization. But yes, this book changed a lot of the ways that I looked at my life even as a 5th and 6th grader, because it's that good of a book. You need to read it if you haven't. And finally, I am still in the process of reading this book, but I will say that I think the oddity of it is why it's one of my favorite standalones. It's a book that it took me a while to get into, but once I hit that like 105 page mark, I was sold. It's going to be Vast in the Night by Sarah Porter. This is another one of those books that I was buddy reading with Amanda from A Court of Books and Love. Her information's down below, and she ended up not liking it. But I believe I am 133 pages in, and I hit pause because I think Tome Topple was getting ready to start up, and it's based on a Russian fairy tale. And I don't know the original story, what this is based on, so I think that that's why I was a little confused. And the fact that they live in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is like nighttime all the time, and there is a store that runs around on feet, and it's weird. I do plan on finishing this very soon because I am not going to go into October, which there's some super awesome plans for October coming up. Stay tuned. With books that aren't finished, so I'm going to be finishing this one definitely this month. So those are my top 10 favorite standalones. Once again, they are in no particular order, except for Fangirl. Fangirl is definitely number 1, but the other 9 just kind of fall in their own little category. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye!